Vintage ads so appalling, they'd be banned now. How recently have you seen an advertisement that made you cringe? Some of the advertisements you'll see here would never be allowed in this day and age. So if you think commercials these days are nothing to write home about, prepare yourself for some old-fashioned ads that'll make your skin crawl. Maintain your footing. If there was ever an advertisement that represented a sexist mentality, this is it. The idea behind this commercial was undoubtedly to present a lady who was so taken with the man's choice of shoe that she couldn't take her gaze away from it. While that's all well and good, albeit it does demonstrate a lack of imagination, the phrase is misogynistic. The slogan, "Keep her where she belongs," has nothing to do with marketing this product and can only be interpreted to mean that women should always be at a man's feet. Though we've gone a long way since these sorts of advertisements were widespread, we still have a long way to go. OMG. Is that what I just read? Men controlled the advertising sector so much that they never learned how to sell. They were terrific at bouncing ideas off one another, but that was about it. A Kernwood Chef food processor advertisement from the 1950s. Picnic in the Gill style. Gil Elvgren created several drawings, including this one. He was famous for his pinup creations rather than his talents. He could paint a pinup of a woman in ordinary conditions and make her seem inviting. Elvgren's works would never have been approved today since they were all created for the enjoyment of men. We're not sure if he ever regretted being renowned for this rather than his paintings, but what's done is done. Canned Pork and Beans by Stokely's Van Camp, 1952. This advertisement was fine, but for one big flaw, the child's expression. You may call it ominous. The little child seems to be the kind of guy who would sneak up on you while you're asleep and do something wicked. This seems to be a subtle warning telling you to fail to buy Stokely's Van Camp Pork and Beans and see what happens to you. Well, we may stretch it to say veiled threat. The artist, on the other hand, screwed up this painting with that icy look on the boy's face. However, it's unlikely they intended to generate a chilling impression on the image. Delta for the repeat offender. We've previously shown in the past advertising that values back in the day were, to put it mildly, dubious. However, this commercial is clearly in the running for most sleazy in history, and it just could win. Are you cheating on numerous ladies at the same time? Back then, Delta was ready to utilize that leverage to drive sales, all the while displaying the person's fictional ladies like they were up for exhibition. From the Dallas Darling to the Miami Minx, all we have to do now is roll our eyes. For dummies, how to catch a man. As you can see, many commercials of the 1930s, 1940s, and 1950s were aimed toward women in the belief that fear tactics would boost sales. When it comes to their perception of women and their degree of intellect, this classic commercial doesn't mince words. The deodorant commercial effectively says that woman is too foolish to comprehend she should use their product, hinting that anyone who does use it must be more intellectual. In the reality, the phrase beautiful but dumb implies that women in general are too stupid to think for themselves and will purchase anything they're told to. Hot smoking. Seriously? Okay, so maybe we don't know what we're talking about and these adverts were successful. Tipperillo designed advertisements for both young and female smokers. Should a gentleman offer a lady a Tipperillo? Was their catchphrase, as they employed it in practically every profession where ladies can be found. The issue was that they presented attractive and sexy ladies in every profession, as you can see. Ready for shipment. The most effective advertising efforts often include an easily remembered catchphrase. The phrase, "the best things in life are free," was changed to "the best things in life come in cellophane" by the corporation. Congratulations on your inventiveness, right? Well, the inventiveness went a little too far. Instead of wrapping a wonderful gift basket or a box of chocolates, they felt that covering a newborn in plastic would be a tremendous success. While the stork is a charming addition, the commercial should include a notice that says, "This product is not intended for the wrapping of humans." Eating healthy. People in the 50s and 60s had no idea, did they? I can see the initial intent behind this strange commercial, but people This advertisement would never pass muster today. I'm curious where these kids are now, and whether they ever look back on this picture with horror. On the other hand, they may have it enlarged and printed on canvas and hung in the center of their living room. Wife spanking in the 1950s. This artwork was inspired by a 1950s trend. Men might slap their wives, according to an opinion section in the Daily Mail website. All 4 males questioned for the story agreed that it was okay to beat spouses when they made errors. The husband is whipping his wife in this image because she purchased stale coffee. The advertisement plays on the narrative of women being treated as second-class citizens during the time. 1885. Cocaine for toothache. Cocaine was formerly promoted for toothache, believe it or not. The substance was widely used and entirely lawful for ordinary usage. Cocaine was a popular element in Coca-Cola, which originated from coca wine. The world's most popular drink today has unusual origins. The therapeutic properties of cocaine were identified in the 1880s. As the 19th century drew to a close, cocaine became a common element in numerous pain relievers, such as toothache drops. Turn 'em on. Smoking was once considered the pinnacle of elegance, and who better to promote it than the chairman of the board, Frank Sinatra? In a vintage advertisement, Sinatra may be seen with a debonair grin, picking up a Chesterfield, man-sized cigarette. However, employing a celebrity to advocate smoking today would be greeted with a clamor of condemnation. Sinatra would be spinning in his grave, if he wasn't too busy crooning and being cool. The commercial would never make it beyond the approval stage, and the public would respond with a collective, "You've got to be kidding me." So let us be thankful that we live in a society where smoking is generally banned, and Sinatra may be remembered for his renowned music rather than his support of a harmful habit. Balls. People with tennis balls. You'd assume this is an advertisement for a dirty club or all-new tennis game, but no, it's a commercial for a computer game. A computer game that simulates tennis. A tennis match within a computer. It was the 1980s. What can one anticipate while playing the game with graphics from the 1980s? Why would you use this picture to market a computer game about tennis? Begin when they're young. When it comes to soft drinks, it's reasonable to say that this beverage is one of the most popular in the world. However, it doesn't imply that it's the healthiest option. Because of the high sugar and caffeine content, experts believe that Coke and other drinks should not be drank daily. In this vintage advertisement, it seems that the corporation is attempting to persuade parents to provide their product to their children during the early formative years to guarantee they have a better start in life. That is, for your kid to be their best, they must drink Coca-Cola. A woman's best friend is KFC. Kentucky Fried Chicken first opened its doors at a time when women were supposed to remain at home, care for their families, and have a nice handmade meal on the table when their husbands returned home from work. Because fast food was a novel idea at the time, KFC aimed its advertising effort at targeting tired housewives. Though the commercial reinforces the assumption that women should be cooking for their husbands, the wording seems to empathize with the difficulties of their work in the home. Colonel Sanders, referring to himself as a woman's best friend and citing weary wives and working women, shows that he understands their situation and wants to assist them. KFC has been tremendously successful since its start, therefore it must have worked. Pinup ski. This is the Russian equivalent of pinup female posters. The central government local party representative distributed these posters. They were also distributed to garages and other locations where Americans might install pinup ladies. The distinction is that they're illustrations rather than pictures. And while you're in Soviet Russia, be sure to link everything with industrial personnel. Pinup gals too. Tiger Lady, Mr. Legs, 1960s. Oh my gosh, this is just incorrect in so many ways. According to the marketing language, the trousers were so hot that they floored a tiger woman. The brutally violent advertisement conveys the incorrect impression about what is acceptable in society. Look at the tiger lady's glum expression. How can a customer relate it to slacks? They intended to make a woman killer commercial. However, this falls under the area of violence against women. Given that the 1960s were a period when women were battling for their rights, this commercial seemed to be telling males that Mr. Leg's trousers would help keep their woman down. Gross. Charms that have been squandered. Because no one wants to smell unpleasant, it's reasonable to assume that the majority of the population uses deodorant. And since deodorant is one of those goods where you get loyal to a brand once you discover what works for you, such businesses live on repeat consumers. Over the past several decades, executives have realized this and discovered that they can reduce their advertising expenditures. Because deodorant was a competitive business back then, things were done a little differently. Because of the fierce rivalry, deodorant makers developed advertising strategies that targeted women and exacerbated their fears. They make it clear in this advertisement that no matter how gorgeous and pleasant you were, if you didn't smell great, you were out of the running. Candy-coated marketing. Everyone enjoys sweets, but we can all agree that they should be consumed in proportion. Parents are well aware of the negative side effects that their children suffer while they're on a sugar high. While sugar is a delightful pleasure, it causes a tremendous increase in energy, followed by a quick drop in young children. This advertisement shows that the corporation was aware of the energy boost that sweets give. Instead of concealing it from customers, they exploited it by convincing moms that they needed to feed their children sweets to give them more energy. They also said that a smart mother would purchase this device. Cars that even a lady could drive. Cars, like appliances, are promoted in quite different ways to men and women. Even though males were traditionally the decision makers when the family acquired a new car, women had specific criteria to make their lives simpler. Trunk capacity for groceries, space and safety for youngsters, and of course gas mileage to keep the family budget on track. Women were growing more autonomous by the 1960s, and many homes chose to have 2 automobiles. Although this advertisement for the Mini Automatic seems to be aimed at ladies, it's aimed at their husbands. Men are more likely to be anxious about their wives' ability to operate a normal-sized automobile if they see a woman who seems frightened and then state that the car is straightforward to drive. What the French do. While the United States has produced some cringeworthy advertisements, they just can't compete with the French. Though the French are more progressive when it comes to gender norms, their regard for animals is inadequate, as seen in the following advertisement. The goal of this graphic commercial is to promote fresh sausage by depicting a joyful pig chopping himself. The advertisement is not only unappealing, but it also begs the issue of whether or not the French handle their animals responsibly. In our day and age, with groups like PETA, this marketing effort would elicit a massive outcry. Endangering children. We have no idea how this ad campaign made it to print. Understandably, the creative brains behind marketing strategies might get stuck at times. Therefore, it's important to run ideas by your colleagues to verify that they make sense. This was not done since the commercial makes no sense at all. Today, a commercial advocating a newborn shave would be met with a barrage of criticism. Aside from the fact that the youngster doesn't need a razor, the consequences of presenting a sharp item to a newborn are unthinkable. Even novice people understand this. Man's World in the 1950s. You may tell where the commercial is heading by the headline. It's a man's world. The advertisement for Van Heusen ties use an unusual approach. The guy is dressed properly in a tie and sits on the bed, which makes no sense since who goes to bed with a tie? From there, it's all downhill. A woman on her knees is patiently serving the guy, delivering a delicious breakfast on his lap. Who doesn't like breakfast in bed? However, the advertisement, like others on this list, presents women as second-class citizens. Advertising suggestions. While it may seem silly to accept guidance from a marketing campaign, there were plenty of commercials that did. This advertisement provided dating advice while also encouraging smoking and sexist views. A fantastic bang for the buck for the firm. Though the slogan asserts firmly that you blow in her face, she'll follow you anywhere, that's not smart advice. While the advertisement implies that ladies adore having smoke blown in their faces and find it quite appealing, rest assured that they will most likely find it a highly impolite gesture. Chief of Tribes, 1998. Nintendo was the undisputed king of console gaming. Their portable gaming device, the Game Boy Color, was a blockbuster success with classic titles like Pokémon, Donkey Kong, and The Legend of Zelda. The opportunity to purchase hues like teal, cherry, and kiwi. The addition of grape, purple, dandelion, and clear translucent alternatives sweeten the bargain even more. The advertisement strangeness is a photograph of a tribal leader clutching a Game Boy. It hurts to be beautiful. Let's face it, for over a century, marketers have been promising that their products would make women seem younger, smaller, and prettier. For crying out loud, it's a multi-billion-dollar business. It's unlikely that this will ever change, although the items themselves have greatly improved. While this 1890 advertisement promotes a chin reduction and beautifier, the gadget seems to be a medieval torture device. The tagline, "Curves of Youth," is aimed at aged ladies, telling them that they may regain their youthful appearance. Although this is unlikely to be a major seller in today's environment, the same idea is conveyed by advertisements promoting cosmetic surgery. 1950s Schlitz beer. This commercial was undoubtedly supposed to be hilarious, and in the 1950s, it could have been. The woman in this photo is a homemaker who's cooking. As black smoke rises from the pan in her fingers, she seems to have spoilt the supper. She's unhappy, but her husband wraps his arm around her and assures her that although dinner's destroyed, they still have the beer. This film plays on 1950s preconceptions of the ideal female being a devout housewife, while the guy was the breadwinner. The guy was also in charge of everything, so it seems condescending that instead of getting furious, he applauds that the beer's not spoiled. Exclusively for you. Advertisers have benefited from differences between men and women for decades, but they often focus on the sex's goals and needs rather than their physical characteristics. In the 1960s, this started to alter. As women began to star their voice, corporations that noticed sought to sell differently to win them over. The issue was that males were still in charge of making choices. Even though this 1965 ad advertising a girl-sized pen for a girl-sized hand made a poor effort to seem to support the women's movement, the underlying message of the ad is that women are smaller and hence cannot wield a man-sized writing tool. A remedy in a bottle. Nothing beats unwinding with a glass of wine after a long day, right? While a glass of wine might seem relaxing, it's not suggested for persons suffering from depression, since it can be depressing. All of this is common knowledge now, but throughout the 1940s and 1950s, depression was seldom mentioned. Though sadness was seldom acknowledged, numerous corporations incorporated it in their marketing campaigns, declaring that they'd discovered a solution. This specific advertisement claimed that their wine could treat not just sadness, but also illness and hangovers. While the hair of the dog may make you feel better, it's not a cure. Don't put your brain under stress. Though new items are introduced daily, there are a handful of that endured the test of time. Even though they may have had to change their marketing techniques and brandings, those items are still household staples throughout the globe. Surprisingly, Coca-Cola's original advertising campaign has radically altered its strategy. Even though Coca-Cola is one of the most well-known brands today, when it was launched in the 1890s, it was touted as a brain tonic. According to the advertisement, the beverage could ease headaches and cure mental and physical weariness. Advertising with a specific audience. Advertisers get the greatest bang for their budget by targeting certain groups. While this has been shown to enhance sales, certain marketing tactics are insensitive. In this day and age of social media, insensitive advertisements are promptly called out, leading businesses to take rapid steps to placate their customers. However, this wasn't the case in the 1960s. Lane Bryant advertised a free fashion catalog for girls sizes 8.5 to 14.5 and teenagers sizes 10.5 to 16.5. However, the phrase they chose to describe them was chubbies. Though they were undoubtedly attempting to be inclusive, their terminology was disrespectful and incorrect. Pyrex provides wedded happiness. When a couple marries, they do so with the belief that their union will continue forever. And it seems that the well-known brand Pyrex was aware of this. Pyrex is a respectable business that's been around for a long time, but the message in this vintage advertisement makes certain promises that they may not be able to meet. The tagline, "Successful marriages start in the kitchen," indicates that if a newlywed couple utilizes their product, they will undoubtedly remain together. It goes on to suggest that Pyrex will make failure-free cooking easy, implying that marriages will almost surely collapse if the wife's cooking fails. Pyrex, how to put the heat on. Delicious hot dogs. Here's a typical hot dog commercial you'd see at football games, baseball games, or any other sporting event where large crowds gather to purchase hot dogs. Because the hot dog was the go-to snack for folks who couldn't afford more than a hot dog during the Great Depression, you'd see hundreds of advertisements touting the hot dog as an all-time family favorite.